Okay, today's topic is about prosperity. And we know that prosperity is more than just money. We've seen examples of people who had lots of money, but they really didn't have prosperity because they didn't have peace of mind and didn't have health. Think of Howard Hughes, who had billions, but he must have been very miserable because he was paranoid. He was a germaphobe. That had to be a miserable existence. So prosperity is not just money. And the saying goes that, money isn't everything. Well, I hope to one day find out. right now. I like a little bit more in my storehouse. But anyway, the topic today comes from writings of Mark Hicks, who says that chapters 2 through 7 of Catherine Ponder's Dynamic Law of Prosperity pairs the 12 powers with the concept of prosperity. It's an interesting idea. The talks that he also proposes that these chapters reflect a coupling and order of metaphysical truths from the 12 powers as taught by Charles and Cora Fillmore, not Myrtle. Charles was a frisky little thing. And after Myrtle made her transition willingly, Charles married Cora. And they wrote a book together called Christ Enthroned in Man. So just a remembrance and a reminder to launch into this topic about imagination and what imagination and faith have to do with prosperity. There is a tale from those who were at the March on Washington. And by the way, I have a cousin who was there. And when people in the nursing home find out, she becomes an instant celebrity because they all want to go to her and talk about the March on Washington. Well, during that day, August 28, 1963, there had been a lot of activity leading up to that march. And Dr. King, being the leader, was very, very tired. He was exhausted. He was discouraged. And when it came time for him to give his speech, it's like, how sometimes you have something to do. I really don't want to do that. So he started off, and some people said that each speaker had 7, I've read 12 somewhere, so it's between 7 and 12 minutes. And he started out with his speech, and Mahalia Jackson, the gospel singer, who was a good friend of Dr. King's, they were very good friends, and she was on him with a lot of the rallies that he went to during those days. And they were quite on a friendly basis. And at these rallies, he would ask her to sing certain songs. And one of the songs that he would ask her to sing is I've Been Buked and I've Been Scorned. And these are non-unity lyrics, so I won't go into them. But it's, I've been buked and I've been scorned, I've been talked about sure as you're born. So he liked that one, and he also liked the one How I Got Over. She was asked to sing these 2 songs at the March on Washington. And after she sang, they introduced Dr. King, and he got up to speak. And she could tell that he was weary and he was a little tired. So the relationship was such that she was behind him. He was at the podium, she was standing behind him. And their relationship was such that she felt that she could talk to him from the audience. And that's the common occurrence in African American churches, is the call response. So people will just out with what they think. And this is what she did. She could see him hesitating. So she said to him, and she was borrowing from a theme that he had used often in his speeches. And she said to him, Martin, tell him about the dream. Tell him about the dream, doctor. And this is when he left his notes behind and he went off into one of the most famous speeches that has ever been uttered by a person. I have a dream. Now, we all have a dream. I don't know of anyone who doesn't have a dream. And after this, he became energized, and he gave us, I have a dream speech, what little children learn in school now, and some of them very well. So she worked off that close relationship to inspire Dr. King, and he gave the speech. And she had this dream about what the dream was. Dreams are powerful. A dream is a desire, and desire is a God-given promise delivered as a divine idea. Do you have a dream? Most people would say yes. Dr. King's speech was so persuasive because of the divine ideas of justice and equality that he evoked. He conveyed these ideas through images, which we all do, which is the use of our divine power of imagination. So he expressed them as the sons and daughters of slaves and the sons and daughters of slave holders would sit down together at the table of brotherhood. So with those words, you can see that or form that image in your mind. And little black boys and little black girls joining hands with little white boys and little white girls as brothers and sisters. So you can see those images in your mind. Now, we often think that prosperity depends upon truth, and it does. But prosperity also depends upon how we process truth in our consciousness. So there are two ways to process truth in the consciousness, through will and through imagination. The power of Martin Luther King's talk exploded when he began to convey truth through an image. Hicks proposes that it might just be that our power of prosperity will also explode when we start to use our powers of imagination. So it's not a little thing. He maintains that the use of the imagination is the better way rather than through will. Will is the hand beating on the table. You will, and it's often forced, especially if it's not used under the direction of Christ's presence. However, imagination is stronger than willpower. And Catherine Ponder said, "Your active imagination will soon take control of your will and put in its place if you will first take control of your imagination." Okay? Now think about how we sometimes misuse that power of imagination. Those of us who have or have had teenagers, when they first learn how to drive, you know, and you have all these images in your head of them lying on the side of the road and the police coming. And a friend of mine said that she used to do that. And then she realized that you only start to worry if the police are knocking at your door. That's when you want to start worrying. If that is how you want to use your imagination. That is actually misuse of the imagination. It's a misuse of our divine power, to use it to imagine things that are not good for you or for them or for anyone else. Imagination has one advantage over will. Imagination expands our sense of possibility. So Bob Proctor, if you're familiar with him, is one of the New Thought teachers. And he says in his presentation that if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. So in other words, going from being in your head to manifesting in your hand. But you have to use the power of imagination properly. Willpower is limited by the capacity to understand, but imagination rises above all limitations. So he's sitting there, and at that time, in 1963, he was vocalizing something that was actually impossible. This is not going to happen. You know, we're all separated. You're here, you're there. This is not going to happen. They're not going to hold hands in brotherhood and equality. But he could image that in his mind. Imaging it in his mind, he would say that we could bring it about. Catherine Ponder also says that our minds are continually imaging. So if you heard that song, Our Thoughts Are Prayers, be careful what you're saying. Our thoughts are prayers. So if I'm sitting there and I'm worrying about my teenage son or daughter out in the car late at night, that's a prayer. And that's not what you want for your children. That's not what you want for yourself. The mind thinks through mental pictures. Imaging is a natural action of the mind. But as we grow in new thought and in unity, we come to understand that we have to use this power in a very positive way. Thinking is the process of moving divine ideas through the inlet and the outlet of the mind. An affirmation that was created from Fillmore's work was, I project myself through time and space, and I rise above all limitations. This comes from Mysteries of Genesis, which is one of Fillmore's books. And again, Bob Proctor, if you could hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. And he says this a lot. And he has a meditation about that I listen to from time to time, because it's very positive, and it helps you with that power of imagination to prompt it. However, now there are some problems with the use of the imagination, as you might have guessed. The imagination can run wild. So if your son or daughter is out in the car and you're imagining all kinds of catastrophic events, that's your imagination running wild. And me, for example, if I don't hear from my son for several days, I have to be careful not to image something being wrong or something being out of order, because that's not what I want for him. That's not what any of us want for our children. So we have to watch that. We can end up imagining negative outcomes as well as positive outcomes. So this is where our power of thought comes in, because we can do it that way. We can end up thinking these things, and that's not what we want. That's not the truth. So we use our powers, all of them, under the direction of the Christ presence. Now, faith is seeing things that aren't there, but you know they're coming. So imagination and faith together. Now again, if you are imagining negative outcomes, where's your faith? You're putting your faith in negative outcomes. We don't want to do that. We want to put our faith on achieving or thinking about positive outcomes. What we think about, we bring about. And as one New Thought teacher said, I am the thinker that thinks the thought that makes the thing. Okay? So we have to be very careful about our power of imagination and faith. We want to use them under the direction of Christ and towards positive outcomes. Now, without a well-developed faculty of faith, imagination will give shape to whatever we feed it. So if I'm feeding these thoughts, these negative thoughts about what's going on, and oh, where is he? I wish he would call her, I wish he would come home, then that's feeding things. And this is not to say that things can't happen, because as the bumper sticker says, stuff happens. Stuff happens, and it can happen. But we don't want to in any way contribute stuff happening to by our thinking. We don't want to contribute to an outcome like that. So we have faith that God is present and in control of all details. And we say to ourselves, in everything I have faith in God. But in everything I have positive faith in God. I'm not going to put my faith in disaster and catastrophe and negative outcomes, although those happen. And we know that they can happen. When we use our divine power of faith, we look to the spiritual realm and perceive divine ideas. Imagination gives spiritual insight, shape, and form for expression in the physical world. So that's why these two fit together so well. So in everything, I have faith in God. Repetition of this affirmation rebuilds trust, re-strengthens conviction, and gives us with a growing awareness of oneness with the Father. Now, Catherine Ponder also says that imagination needs the power of a master plan. And she actually proposes this master plan. All the rage now is these vision boards. Around New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, all these celebrities on TV were talking about vision boards. Well, when I first started to study unity, it was called treasure mapping. So now everybody, this is all the rage, and everybody is thinking this is something new and something that we should do. And they had several celebrities on TV showing us our vision boards. And Lisa Ryan, I think she speaks here sometimes. I just saw a picture this morning of her on Facebook, and she was with a group, and they did vision boards. And it's actually a fun thing to do, if you ever want to do it. And some unity churches do it for the church. So that might be one thing that you might want to consider. So she says that imagination needs the power of a master plan. And the solution that she offers is a wheel of fortune. A wheel of fortune is powerful because it integrates several images into one integrated image to provide balance and order. And it also allows the mind to subconsciously focus on all desires in an integrated fashion. Now, I've done many vision boards, secret, self-disclosure, and I have one on my phone actually, but it's not for things, it's for qualities I want to manifest. So every time I open up my phone, there's my vision board with these qualities that I want to manifest. So I see that, it reminds me all the time. Now she gives, Mark Hiss gives a presentation of this. And it depends on who you're reading, but people talk about having 12 sectors, like the 12 powers. This one has 4, and you can divide it in however you want it, and you have your pictures, and that's why I say it's a fun activity, because where everybody does is they bring in their old magazines or new magazines. Be careful that it's not something somebody wants to read. Put your picture in the middle, and then around the periphery, the things that you want. Okay? And I've used them. My car that I have, I put that on a treasure map. Now, one thing I'm kind of sorry I put on a treasure map is one of those high efficiency washers. Oops. Nope. They need to perfect them a little more. All thing is, though, I'm not getting rid of it, at least not right away. But they're not.
Do you have 20/20 vision?
Do I have 20/20 vision with glasses?
Yeah. Well, or the year 2020. I just saw that.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
thought that was pretty nifty.
Yeah.
Do you have 20/20 vision?
I do.
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I do.
20/20
vision.
For a year.
20/20 needs perfect sight.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
And
Like
we
that.
do have that.
I never thought
Whether
about
we have
that.
it physically, we do have it
20/20
in
vision.
spiritual. We do have
I can't believe it's 20.
So you put your things around here, put your picture in the middle,
Was far.
and the things you want around here. I'm going to fill this out when I get home.
And what are those things?
Yeah, are there
for
specific
things? What do they
categories? I
say?
can't read that.
Okay. One is this one here. Actually, this is upside down.
No wonder we couldn't read it.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm looking at that.
Okay, now that looks really
Okay, now at the top it has spiritual.
right.
Happy is never
So this is where you
strange.
might want to put your qualities that you want
He
to
never meets a
manifest.
stranger happy.
No.
Never.
So what I did for
Nobody
mine
is
was I
stranger.
made it. We did this in a church. And I made it. And I took a picture of it and I put it on my phone. So every time I open up my phone, I can see these qualities. So it's not so much about material things, especially not high efficiency washers. I learned that. But we have space for friends and family. Down here is physical health and professional goals. Okay, so maybe during 2020, you might want a promotion. So you put that on here. Maybe in 2020, you want a high efficiency washer and dryer. I don't know what for. But anyway, highly overrated as far as I'm concerned. I shouldn't slam it like that. And then at the bottom here, your physical goals. So maybe you want to get in shape a little bit more. Maybe you want to lose 5 pounds. You know, you don't have to make it drastic like that. But you can put it on your vision board, and then you put this someplace where you can see it. Doesn't have to be big like this. It could be a small picture that you put in your day planner, and then you can look at it every time you open it up. Okay, because the thing is, you have to have faith that these things will come about. Faith and imagination. Now, if you don't have faith, oh, I'm just doing this. This is a pretty little picture I'm making. It won't work. But if you pray and have faith that these things can work, it will. Okay, it's not magic, but what you think about, you bring about. So if you're thinking about that high efficiency washer, put it on here, and it becomes manifest. Okay, so that's what you do. So that's the second thing that she recommends. And Catherine Ponder is considered one of the greatest prosperity teachers. And her books are very simple. You can go through them in no time, but they're very profound in what they contain. So like I said, when I first began to study unity, it was called treasure map. But now we had to fancy it up a little bit. And it's called a vision board. Okay, and it's round because it's eternal. Well, people don't so much do the round anymore. They just put the pictures on there. And you know, which I guess works about the same. But anyway, like I said, we've come a long way, baby. Or maybe we haven't, to get where we got to today. You've got your own cigarette now, baby. You've come a long, long way. Remember that?
Yes.
And then we discovered that, well, Virginia Slims, cigarettes, those contribute to lung cancer. Our father died of lung cancer. My sister still smokes.
Oh.
Go figure. I stopped saying anything to her about it. But they said it has something to do with the hand-to-mouth action. And she does. She says to me, she says, well, I don't smoke inside. And I don't smoke in the car. But she said, yeah, but you put it on your coat running outside every 5 minutes. So what's the difference? But anyway, I'm not going to argue with her about that. Okay, Mark Hicks says that the wheel of fortune turns the tide of thinking, and he compares it to a gyroscope. And I was so curious. I went out yesterday to Hobby Lobby, which is a store I never shop in, for reasons I won't mention. But I got a gyroscope, and I was playing around with it this morning. You know, you have a string, and you pull the string, and it's a fascinating little thing. So the wheel spins and acts like a gyroscope or flywheel. Like a gyroscope, your vision board, your treasure map. And I meant to look when I came in to see if you all still have that book. I looked and I could not find my little book about treasure mapping. So I don't know if I gave it away, which I hope I didn't. I hope it's somewhere in a room I designate as my office, which is a mess. But I'm going to continue to look for it, so that will maybe prompt me or give me the idea to straighten things out in there. Successful outcomes in one area tend to empower successful results in other phases of life, such as work or spiritual development. So if I get my car, my green Impala, that gives me an idea of it works, it's successful, and then something else I have on here may come to be. Okay? So that's how the Wheel of Fortune works. So successful outcome in one area. And what I noticed too, and this has to do with forgiveness, which is part of prosperity. I decided to give myself the gift of forgiveness for Christmas. I didn't want anything material. I wanted the gift of forgiveness. And I had this one big thing that I was working on. I've been working on for a long time. And I didn't quite achieve it because I was using a method that uses muscle testing. I don't know if you know what that is, but you can ask me afterwards. And it was by Dr. Stephen Horn, he's very much into holistic health. And now he's doing, since the government cracked down on him, he can't say certain things. Now he's taking it more into the spiritual realm, which I thought was very interesting. And he gave a method for doing the forgiveness process. And then he said, every now and then, go to someone who's knowledgeable and ask them the muscle test. Ask the question, Karen has forgiven, a situation or a person. And if you know how the muscle testing works, if you test strong, that means that it's been successful. Well, I was kind of like, you try to hold it up. And it was kind of bouncing back and forth. So the practitioner told me, work on it a couple more months. Okay? But what I noticed that in doing that one big thing, a lot of little things were cleared up. And it's like, I don't think about that too much anymore. So in working on that one big thing, a lot of the little things that I was concerned about, I had not quite so positive ideas about, came about, and they worked on that. So imagination, she says, should not be selfish. Our imagination should work for our highest good. And not only should it work for our highest good, but it should work for the highest good of others. So if I'm sitting there and I'm envying something that someone else has, and she said there's a difference between desire and envy. Envy is saying that I want what she has. Okay? Desire says, looks at it and says, yes, I'd like to have something like that. But you want it for yourself. You don't want theirs. You want it for yourself. So our highest good comes when we are shaping divine imagination ideas, our divine ideas, not someone else's blessings. Okay, because you really can't have someone else's blessings. We're all unique, individualized expressions of God. So what's yours is yours, and what's mine is mine. I cannot have your pink Cadillac. That just came up for some reason. I can't have your pink Cadillac, even if I want it. Now, if I want something like it, then that's what you focus on, not on having theirs. Same thing goes with someone else's spouse, but we won't go into that. Desire looks at the good fortune that is on its way to us. So if we see something that we want that somebody else has, and you say, I'd like to have something like that, and that person has it, that means it's in your neighborhood. Hey, if it's in your neighborhood, it's not far from you. So think about it that way. And remember again, that if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it where? In your hand. Okay, can be made manifest. So with that, I say thank you. Thank you for listening. And I hope that I may have given you an idea or something that you can do together as a church or individually. Okay?
I am free.
you like, close your eyes and go within that sacred place, that secret place of the Most High, where we decree and declare, in everything I have faith in God. God is my rock. In God I trust. So we give thanks also for faith. And we know that in our imagination, working for our own good, we picture images of our good and for the good of others, especially those that we love. We keep in mind that every thought is a prayer. So we make the effort to keep our thoughts clear, focus on the spiritual and for the good of ourselves and others. We remind ourselves often that this is the way to go, that this is the way to bring about control of our 12 divine faculties for our highest good and for our greatest joy. And like Jesus, as we develop them, we know that we can do these things that he did or greater. I don't know anyone who's manifested that yet, but we can all. It's a worthwhile goal without too much stress or too much strain. We ask to keep our thoughts positive and clear. We ask to keep our faith in the direction of the highest. And in so doing, we improve our lives and we come to know the true meaning of prosperity. We know that money is just a small part of prosperity. Prosperity means good health, good relationships, friendships, all the good that God has for us in store. Some people say, I am blessed and highly favored. We are all blessed and highly favored. And one person's good is not better than another person's good. And we can all work toward our good. We are all blessed and highly favored. And in everything, we have faith in God. And we know that all is well. And we take a couple minutes in the silence to let this sink into our soul for our greatest good. So image in your mind the good that you wish to receive, knowing and having faith that this can be manifest. And as I hold it in my head, I can hold it in my hand. So a couple of minutes. Okay. Starting to come back to this time and place.